the room, what we have going on here is we've got pallets on the walls that act as diffusers, and reason for that is because well, we have two choices of what to do with the sound in this room. Can either absorb the sound or can diffuse the sound, and well, really the absorbing the sound will give you a dead room. Nobody really wants a dead room for recording drums. And this room is 26 feet long by 17 feet wide, and the ceilings are between 10 and 11 feet high. And so it's a decent sized room, but it's not big enough to lose any reverb. We have to retain whatever ambience is in this room. So we really can't absorb very much. We have to diffuse. We need to stop flutter echoes, and so we're using diffusers. Now the diffusers we're using are wooden pallets, so they're pretty cheap. They're free actually, and they do a good job of breaking up the sound without absorbing it. They don't look very pretty, but they do the job. And wood also sort of adds something to the sound that is kind of pleasing. So wood is always a good thing to use in the studio in general. So basically that's the setup for the vinyl recording, and when the album gets finished you'll be able to hear if I made good decisions or not. I also wanted to show you guys some of the actual outboard gear that I was using on that recording. I'm using an Allen & Heath Mix Wizard console for the channels that aren't so crucial. Because I mainly replace the snare sound anyway, I've got my snare top and bottom coming through this mixer. I've got the kick sample coming from the DM5, which is going to be replaced later, coming through this mixer. I've got all of the D-drum triggers, which got split by the direct boxes upstairs. They come down into this mixer and get amplified slightly before they go into the Alesis trigger I/O. That gets them up to a gain level that makes sure that the trigger I/O gets every hit. I've also got an overhead, the center overhead mic is coming through one of these preamps. It's not something I would normally do, but in this case I was a little bit short on time and gear, so we do have the center overhead coming through here, and I think that's about it. Over here I'm using two Calrec PQ1081 preamps that were racked by Brent Averill. These are pretty cool because they have a transformer bypass switch, so you can go around the transformer and get a less colored sound. I'm not using the EQ, it's just straight in and straight out. The bottom module is a Neve, I think it's a 33115, and that's for my ride and hi-hat. So my main two overheads are through the Calrecs, my ride and hi-hat are through that Neve. Then you see a RME Fireface 800 sound card interface box, and I'm not the only reason I'm using the preamps on that is for talkback mic, and I think I punched in some scratch guitars on one of those. And then there's the Alesis trigger I/O box, which takes all the D-drum triggers and turns them into MIDI, and they go to the computer from there. So that's basically all the gear that I'm using down here. In this music, so much of the audio is turned into samples. that really all I'm really concerned with for high quality audio is the cymbals. That's mainly what I really care about. So I've got really nice preamps for the cymbals. And I can also just tell you that I did an A/B test between the Neve and the Calrex before I started recording, and I was actually surprised because this Neve, which is Wands and comes from Trident Studios, is known to be really smooth for overheads, and I hadn't used these Calrex so much on overheads before. I think I had used them once before, and I did some A/B testing and found that they were substantially smoother, more dynamic, more explosive sounding. And yeah, that's really nice. That may also be attributable to the fact that Brent Averill has allowed us to bypass the transformer. So that's pretty nice. I'm going to remember that and continue using those on overheads. The other option, and what we used on the last album, was a pendulum tube preamplifier for the overheads. But Juan's been using that a lot lately, and I just basically took his word for it. He said that the Neve was that the Neve cut through the mix better with overheads. And the last time I did use the pendulum on overheads, they were really beautiful sounding, but they were just a little bit soft and kind of tended to go to the background. So anyway, ended up being a pretty good situation here, and that's about it.